Kind of funny, I got into it with one of my baseball coaches. He told me to go get a mop and practice for my future career. And I was like, or I could just be an assistant coach. Well, he didn't really like that. Side note or whatever, I went to basically an all-black school pretty much. So like roasting was like, that was part of the whole culture. So like you weren't gonna roast me and I didn't roast back. I was always a person like, if I was gonna hit somebody, like I was gonna hit somebody as hard as possible. So I've always been really aggressive and really passionate with what I was doing. Like I was always working out, like even when I broke my leg, I was always like working out as a bodybuilder, like after school and stuff like that, or after practice. And it just kept going all the way into college. And then our strength conditioning coach, he was really big on like supplementation as far as like creatine and then protein and stuff like that. So I walked in and then like, I don't remember what I bought. It was something like Muscle Farm or something like that. Dennis Wolf was on the front of it. You know, I never really wanted to look like that, but I was like, that's cool. I finally decided, I was like, I'm not having a lot of fun playing football anymore. I just want to train, and so basically I was like, I'm done playing football. I just want to just do bodybuilding. And then I did my first show like the next summer after that, after I decided to call it. So Justin Abbott, a lot of people know me as Justin Wyatt. That's my Instagram handle. I'm a IFBB Pro Open bodybuilder. Just competed in my rookie season. Come from originally Little Rock, Arkansas, is where I was born and raised. Lived a little north of that most of the time. Cabot, if anybody knows where that area is really where I grew up. The home life situation, I actually spent most of my younger childhood with my grandma Patty and grandpa Brad. That's when I lived in Cabot. Other situations with my mom and my dad, not the best situations as far as that goes. Kind of got into a little trouble or whatever, something like that. But like I grew up with my grandma and my grandpa. Very, very fortunate for that. Very good upbringing. Never, you know, missed out on anything. I played football from a young age. All sports, you know, they took me to and from all sports, and that's pretty much how my childhood was done. Is I was outside all the time. I didn't play video games. I grew up in the country, you know, running around with a 22 and just shooting stuff all the time. And that's pretty much how I grew up, was just sports, hunting. That was my life. You hardly saw me inside. Yeah, I played soccer because I stopped playing baseball one year. It's kind of funny. I got into it with one of my baseball coaches, and I called him. So a girl actually knocked over a drink in class, but he thought it was me. He told me to go get a mop and practice for my future career. And I was like, or I could just be an assistant coach. Well, he didn't really like that. He tried to blast me in front of everybody, and I was like, I'm not getting blasted, so I blasted him back. So a little side note or whatever, I went to basically an all-black school pretty much. So like roasting was like, that was part of the whole culture. So like you weren't gonna roast me and I didn't roast back. So that's kind of how it was. Actually, like my very first impression was like, you would go into GNC, right? Like our strength conditioning coach, he was really big on like supplementation as far as like creatine and then protein and stuff like that. So he had like made me a list to go get, and I walked in and then like, I don't remember what I bought. It was something like Muscle Farm or something like that. But it came with like a little brochure. Dennis Wolf was on the front of it. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, you know, I never really wanted to look like that, but I was like, that's cool. And so how I was training was bodybuilding style, what I thought was bodybuilding style is just, you know, we had our specific days like chest day, back day, stuff like that, and leg day. That's kind of how I got into it. But I just kept getting more and more down the rabbit hole and just learning more and more on my own. So like, even when I went to college, I went to college for kinesiology and human performance and nutrition. I really didn't have to like study because I'd already like gone through all the basics on my own, trying to learn about bodybuilding and stuff like that. So a lot of the schooling as far as that went, like came real easy. So that's kind of how I got introduced to it. And I just ate into it and just learned about everything I could as far as like, I was the kid, and especially in like high school, is like, I had all my meals with me. Like I'd be in class, like eating meals, but it would be like, my rule was I would take a tub of Greek yogurt, like the big tub of Greek yogurt, and I would take a bag of granola and peanut butter. And I would literally just like in every other class, I would eat some of that and then some of that. And so I'd have like, my lunch was like chicken and rice and beans, because everybody was like, oh, chicken, rice, and beans, like that's like, you know, whatever. But for me, like I was always wanted to be the strongest one in the weight room and stuff like that. So that's just how I've always been, is like, pretty dialed in as far as like, as what I knew at the time, it was as dialed in as I possibly could have been for everything. So then when I got to college, it was easy just to be like, all right, I'm gonna go to the athletic club or the school gym, and I'm gonna train and I'm gonna eat all my meals and go to class, which is easy. You know, you get up, you eat a meal, you go to class for a couple hours, you come back, you eat, you go train, you take a nap or whatever, and that was the life. Like, that's part of the funnest time I ever had as far as training, was just eating your meals, training, going to class a couple times a day, and that was it. That's how I got into bodybuilding. I guess you always get the acquisitions of steroids. You know, I was like, well, I'm eating, you know, 4 times the amount that you are, and you're eating hot chips when I'm eating, you know, the Greek yogurt and, you know, granola and peanut butter in class. You're eating hot Cheetos, and I'm actually in the gym training harder than you, trying to be better. Like, I was the strongest one as a freshman. With bodybuilding training, it's always been just learning. So like, where I really started learning about training was Trained by JP, the actual website. So like his member site, I bought a member subscription to that, and like I remember I bought like the subscription to it literally like right after my first show when I went back to college. So like, I had a show in the summer, and then like the following fall or whatever, I went back to school, and I literally started training just like that, with the progressive overload and the splits that he had and the knowledge that he had and stuff like that. So that's where my training started to progress, but it wasn't to the point where it is now, where I'm more like, I was basically just more moving weight and stuff like that, trying to get strong. Like, I was squatting 7-8 plates at that point. Like, I have videos in that college gym of me squatting, you know, that kind of weight, and people like looking at me crazy. Like, it was funny. Like, I had one guy that would train with me sometimes. We always train legs together. And he was like a power lifter, and I was like doing the weight that he was doing with his like singles. I was doing it for like 10s and 15s and stuff like that. So it was kind of funny. Like, I was known as the bodybuilder, you know, at that school, which wasn't a real big school. But of course, I learned a little bit in school about it. But honestly, a lot of the schooling doesn't really add up. Like, yeah, you learn like, you know, insertion points and stuff like that of muscles, and, you know, how to shorten these muscles, and these muscles do what, and these planes, but it doesn't really boil down to bodybuilding specifically, because I feel like it's more of a broad stroke, where now we're like more into like the fine strokes of things. I would say that most of the time in my bodybuilding career, it's always been like the next set, the next session, the next meal. It was kind of always like that until I got to like the national level, where I did my first national show. I think it was right after COVID or whatever. So I think it was 21 nationals, and I placed top 5, and I was like in the super heavy class, and I was like, dang, like I might actually be able to do something with this. The other spectrum of it like was very untapped potential. So I was like, I have a long ways that I can progress. And when I went to nationals in 21, I was like if I would have weighed in, I'd have been like 220 on the diet, but I drank like half a gallon of water, so I actually weighed like 225 just to make weight. But I remember waking up like 219 on show day, so I really wasn't. I should have been a heavyweight. Going into USA's, I think I was like 235 or something like that, so I was a true super heavy. So it was like 20-pound jump, and then when I did nationals, I took a whole year off, I was like 250 on stage. So I've like made those big progressions just because I started playing with other things, I guess.
Have you always had faith?
Yes.
You grew up with that?
Yeah, so everybody goes through what we call seasons of faith. Like, you know, I grew up in church. I got baptized real young, maybe even too young to really understand what I was actually getting baptized for, etc. But I've always grown up in church, and I used to kind of call myself, which I still kind of am, called it like an outlaw Christian, where it's like, yes, you believe in God and everything like that, and you know that he's there and this and that, but you still can question stuff. Like, I don't like the people that are just like super, super absolute. The faith is knowing something on the other side is going to be better than it is right now, because he has already wrote your name on it. He's already put that path. As long as you take the steps and you have faith in him, he'll lead you to where you need to be. Like, the point of being a Christian to me is being the best version of yourself you can possibly be, and, you know, just allowing his light to shine through you, because we are his workers, we are his stewards. Bodybuilding for me now, like, yes, I do want to win. I'm very competitive. I played sports all my life. Like, there's nothing more that I want to do than win. Like, and I do everything in my power to win. But in bodybuilding, you can't control every variable. You can't control who shows up. You can't control your genetics. I wish I could pick my parents again, et cetera, you know. So bodybuilding for me is, yes, it's competitive and I do want to win. The stage is part of bodybuilding. But once I step back and look, I have a much bigger platform and a different avenues that I can explore to actually improve bodybuilding or improve myself. So I like that, like you said, with the presence on social media and stuff like that. Like, me and Jordan are building a community. Like, you know, people love us on YouTube. They like watching our videos. That was us when we were kids. Like, we're providing that to them. Like, it was the Branch and the, you know, and the Dallas McCarvers and Luke Sandow and Fuad Abiyah. Like, that's our platform now to be able to give back and help. And a lot of that platform like that is we also are allowed to show our faith. You know, a lot of people, especially in bodybuilding, they don't talk a lot about faith, et cetera. So it gives us a platform to help these people with their training, give them something positive to watch that's not, you know, somebody just sitting there, you know, cussing up a storm, et cetera, et cetera. Are we perfect? No, we're not perfect, but they like the raw, how we are. We don't sugarcoat stuff, we don't BS stuff, but we're also not super, you know, we're never negative and et cetera. So we can give the younger generation something to look at. We can show them the right way to do things where they're not guessing and, you know, all this stuff, or listening to all the people on TikTok that just want to talk about trend, you know, et cetera. Like, we're showing them, like, hey, this is our food we're eating every day. This is our, you know, the supplements we're using every day. This is how we train this body part. This is why we do this. Trying to help people better themselves in all aspects of bodybuilding and show them that it can be done. It takes a while, but as long as you're doing the right things will come from it. This will be the first Olympia that I will have actually made an impression, if you want to say that, because it's my rookie year, of course, but being here and then building this community, and the community is not just in the gym, the community is all around the world with your videos, reaching so many people, and such the positive return from other people, the positive reciprocation, or whatever you want to call it. I think this will be the first Olympia that I go to, and actually, like, people will want to come up and, you know, conversate and meet me and stuff like that, which I look forward to so much, because the Olympia is, you know, one of the biggest expos in the world. We're a lot more accessible now because of social media. So a lot of people feel like they're more close to us than we really are. It's like when I was growing up, like, if I got to meet Dexter Jackson for the first time. He guest posed at one of my shows. I was like starstruck. I was like, this is Dexter Jackson, like, you know, all this stuff. But yeah, it's gonna be nice meeting a lot of people that I haven't got to meet, you know, from all around the country, all around the world, et cetera. So I'm really looking forward to that.
What's the most challenging thing with bodybuilding?
The most challenging thing in bodybuilding, I would say doing it at the level that we do it at every single day. Like, I have a lot of people like message me and, like, you know, about my food or whatever, like, oh, I could eat that. I'm like, yeah, you could eat that for a day, 100%. I know you could eat that for a day. Like, anybody can eat it for a day, but eat it for 365 days. You know, drink 6-7 liters of water every single day. Like, come in here and train. Like, yeah, you came and trained with me one day. That's awesome. We're doing it again tomorrow. Like, stuff like that. So I would say doing what we do at the level that we do every single day. That's probably the toughest part that people don't realize. Okay, yeah. So I would say probably the negative would be you're always unhealthily looking at yourself and, like, have, like, body dysmorphia and stuff like that. Like, you're constantly consumed about yourself. But, like, another negative would be that it's really hard to let go and let God a lot of times, especially in the sport, because you're always want to be in control of what you're doing, where sometimes things are not in your control. So you have to, the stress can build up from that. So that's a big negative, is just one, to always be in control. Honestly, the best bodybuilders would be like, you know, like Ronnie Coleman, or people that are really stress-free and kind of relaxed on things. Like, you can ask Ian Valier how he was in his, in his prime. He was like, the meals were literally to the, the minute. Like he would be eating, if he missed a meal, like he felt like it was the end of the world. But he says if you look back on it, if he got his 6 meals in that day, it didn't matter if one was 4 hours apart or one was 1 hour apart, as long as he got those meals in. As long as I can control what I can control, the other things that are out of my control, I can let those go. And that's why I say let go and let God, because he's already got the plan planned out for you. Your job is just to take those steps and do the best you can with those steps and what you're handed. So those are the kind of the negative things in this sport. And jealousy could be one, you can't pick your genetics. I wish I could. Like, if I could pick my genetics, I would pick, Hunter Labrada's genetics, or, Justin Compton's or something like that. So, like, not being jealous of what they have and how good they are with, there's people that are 10 times better than me and they miss meals all the time. Where if I miss one meal, I'm down like 6 pounds the next day, like stuff like that. So there are some negatives, but those negatives are far outweighed by the positives if you do it for the right reasons and you do it for yourself and do it for the betterment of the sport itself. Starting out young is just learning how to eat. Like, at the end of the day, you're not going to put on muscle if you're not eating your food. You're not going to preserve muscle when you're dieting if you're not eating the right foods, etc. So really learning to eat, and honestly, like, the best bodybuilders are honestly the best eaters. So that would be my number one, is that. Number two is learn how to train. Just like, not even learn how to train, but just as you're starting out, just train hard. Like, I would much rather be able to, or if I'm coaching somebody, I would much rather have to pull somebody back a little bit and, tighten up their form or whatever, pull the weight back and then let them progress again, than have somebody who's doing a 45-second negative and 45-second eccentric lat pull down. Like, go in and start training hard, learning what works for your body, and then progress from there. And then you can move in, like, you're painting with the broad strokes at that time, then you can move into the finer details as needed. That would be 2. 3 would be just be smart with what you're doing. That is the food, that is the training, and that is the, the PED aspect of it. More is definitely not always better. I actually take less than I took in my earlier days, which is crazy. So that would be number 3. Number 4, just be consistent. Learn how to be consistent every single day in what you're doing. Whether that's like, you're prepping and you have 4 liters of water one day and you have 6 liters of water the next day, you're doing check-ins. Well, now your weight's up because you have more water, or whatever. Just be consistent with everything all the way down to your sodium. Weigh out your sodium, which is not that big of a deal when you're young, like earlier in it, but like it can be really a big deal, when you're closer to a show. Number 5 would just be a good person if you're going to be in this sport. Like, we have enough people that are not good people that you don't need to be one of those. Like, be the person. Like I like to say all the time, is it costs absolutely nothing to be a good person. It costs absolutely nothing to give that compliment. It takes nothing away from you. It's not a negative, it's only a positive. So why not be the best person you can possibly be? Like I like to say also, if God gives us the breath in our lungs, why would we not speak out positivity with that breath that he gave us? So that would probably be my top 5. Well, I think number 1 is going to be progressive overload. Like, I feel like your first 5 years of training should be primarily focused on getting stronger in all the main lifts, and then you can start moving into this lift works better for me. Because if you don't try it, you don't know what works. So I would say progressive overload, constant tension on the muscle, and then finding what works for you. Like, I can do a T-bar and my chest comes off the pad a little bit, but I get a crazy connection to my back. Where somebody who does that may not get anything but biceps. Like, find out what works for you and do those movements that you feel, and don't be afraid to do something that's different. Or even, everybody says, oh, you're supposed to only do 1 top set, 1 back off set. Where if me and Jordan, in our back sessions or even our chest sessions or leg sessions, if a movement is feeling really good, we're feeling really connected with it, who says that you can't run 4 or 5 sets on that movement? Stuff like that. Don't be afraid to do stuff that others aren't, and don't be like don't feel that you have to do what others do because they're looking at you or watching you. Like, it's your bodybuilding journey, and you get to do what you need to do to be the best bodybuilder you can be. I moved here because I basically outgrew that area that I was living in. I was the only open pro ever from Arkansas. So the gyms I was training at and stuff like that, it wasn't something that was super accepted. It was like, I was like kind of looked at kind of weird on, you know, how I was training and stuff like that. I didn't have people that could spot me that I was comfortable with. I was training at a community center at one point to where it's just a bunch of old people, and I just kind of outgrew it. And then every time that I've ever been here for, like, you know, the homecomings or when I turned pro in 2023, it was actually in Dallas. So just being here, and then every time I was here, I would train with Jordan and Brandon, or I would train with some other guys, or even just train by myself. Just like the atmosphere, and like I just felt like this is where I needed to be, and I knew that. And I had some things holding me back in Arkansas, and finally I was like, if I'm gonna do it, if I'm gonna do this bodybuilding thing full on 100%, I'm moving to Dallas. Like, this is the bodybuilding mecca that I see, period. I don't care what anybody else says. I mean, we have however many pros just in destination alone, much less in the Dallas area. And you got Brett and Martin in Houston and Hunter, and this is bodybuilding through and through. Like, everybody, like, I come in here and I train, and people aren't looking at me weird, like that I'm training hard. They're pushing me to be better, or I know that if I'm in here and I need a spot from somebody, I can ask somebody and feel confident they can do that. It opens up a lot more opportunities social media wise to be around these people, which it sounds kind of weird, but that's just the bodybuilding. That's like, if you're a bodybuilder now, then in order to make money, you're gonna have to, you know, do the social media aspect and have the sponsorships and stuff like that, etc. So that's why I moved here. I bet on myself, and it's done nothing but help me as far as like having a great team and circle around me, community around me, and financially, etc. Like, bet on myself, and it's done nothing but pay off. Yeah, so at the Olympia, I'd love to meet anybody and everybody and just come up, whether it's just for a picture or whether you want to have a conversation, you have a question, etc. I'm looking forward to meeting each and every one of you, and, you know, spend a little bit of time and just getting to know people, and, you know, getting to know more people that are, you know, loving the content we're putting out. Or if there's anything that you would like to see us do, let us know that as well. But like I said, I look forward to being at the Olympia and getting to talk with each and every one of you that wants to come up and talk. I cherish those little moments.